Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Passé Composé with Être. So before, we learned how to express things in the past by using Passé Composé with avoir, as in, j'ai mangé une crêpe. I ate a crepe. And here is our auxiliary verb, or our helping verb, avoir. Now we're going to learn how to say things in the past that require us to use être instead. Être is our verb to be. So here's an example of what that will look like. Je suis allé au cinéma. I went to the cinema. And you'll notice that instead of avoir, we use je suis, which is the verb être. There are only a handful of verbs that take être instead of avoir as the auxiliary verb. We can call them Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp. So this is the list of verbs that take être instead of avoir. We have descendre, to descend, revenir, to come back, mourir, to die, rester, to stay, sortir, to go out, venir, to come, aller, to go, naître, to be born, devenir, to become, entrer, to enter, rentrer, to re-enter or to go home, tomber, to fall, retourner, to return, arriver, to arrive, monter, to climb, and partir, to leave. So you may have noticed from the previous list that all of those verbs have something to do with coming and going. It has something to do with moving around in space, about going somewhere or coming back somewhere. And there's this little illustration that helped me when I was learning this in high school French. So we have this little guy, he's born, naître, he goes, aller, he goes up, monter, he arrives and comes, arriver, he enters, entrer, he passes through, passer, he stays, rester, he leaves, partir, he exits, sortir, he goes down, descendre, he falls, tomber, and he dies, mourir. So if you want to take a little screenshot of this picture, that might be helpful. I'll make a fun face for you too. Okay, so if we're going to use être as our auxiliary verb, then we're going to have to remember how to conjugate it. We'll conjugate it in the present tense to use it as part of this past tense, the passé composé with être. So être, to be. Je suis, I am. Tu es, you are. Il est, he is. Elle est, she is. On est, one is. Nous sommes, we are. Vous êtes, you are. Ils sont, they are, and elles sont. They are feminine. So just like with passé composé with avoir, using passé composé with être, we have two parts, our auxiliary verb, which is être, and our participe passé, our past participle. So let's take a look. Our first example, je suis allé à la cantine. I went to the cafeteria. Here's our auxiliary verb, être, je suis. And then we have our past participle, aller, which means went or gone. So I have gone. Je suis allé, I went or I have gone to the cafeteria. Our next example, elles sont entrées dans la salle de classe. They entered the classroom. Again, we have our auxiliary verb, être, and then our past participle, entrer. They have entered or they entered the classroom. Okay, so let's make some past participles so that we'll be able to use both the auxiliary verb être and our past participle with each and every one of our Dr. and Mr. Vandertramp verbs. So for ER verbs, just like normal, we're going to take off the ER and add E accent aigu. So we get aller or entrer. For IR verbs like partir and sortir, we are going to take off the IR and add an I for parti or sorti. And all the other IR verbs in our list except for anything like venir. So venir, instead of taking off the IR and adding an I, we add a U, so we get venu. And that includes any verb that contains the word venir. So devenir, to become, we get devenu, became. And then revenir, to come back, we get revenu, come back. And then for naître, to be born, and mourir, to die, we have these irregular forms, né and meurt. So, something special about Passé Composé with être is that we have to have agreement in gender and number between the past participle and the noun that it describes. So just like an adjective. So if we have someone who's masculine that we're talking about in our sentence and we say il est allé, he went, then we don't have any change, just like with adjectives. We don't add anything, we just have our past participle of the verb aller, we've taken off the ER, and we've added E accent aigu. But if we have someone who's feminine, elle est allée, she went, just like with adjectives, we're going to add an E to the end of this past participle. Okay? Doesn't sound any different, elle est allée, but it's spelled differently. For masculine plural things, we're going to add an S. Ils sont allés. Again, doesn't sound any different, but we have to agree in gender and number. And since this is plural, we have to add an S here. Okay, ils sont allés, they went. And for feminine plural, elles sont allées, they went, a group of girls went. We're going to do agreement for gender, they're girls, so we're going to add an E, and agreement for number. It's plural, so we're going to add an S. So hopefully today's video has helped you to understand how we use passé composé with être for verbs in past tense when we're talking about coming and going. As always, if you have any questions at all, please let me know.